Greetings, guys. Welcome now to a new episode, and maybe the only episode right now for our reaction to the DC movie news from James Kennedy to Saffron. I'm your host, MrYazMan300, and joining me today is Joe. How you doing, Joe?
Doing all right. How's about you?
Yeah, I'm fine. And also, once again we have Kai. Also, how are you doing, Kai?
I just came from the gym and I feel pretty pumped right now.
All right. Okay, one
More or
thing I want to
less.
say, you kind of a little bit, I think you're glitchy, but so far your audio is fine because your audio is more important than the video. So far, we are hearing you well.
Okay.
Okay, and for we have actually for the first time ever, Drew. How you doing, Drew?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, I'm glad that I had you because I need someone who's a DC expert. And I'm glad I had because I asked a lot of people, and you were the one who responded. Is there a delay?
I'm good.
Ooh.
Sorry, it's just I'm clicking things and everything.
I will
I'm
apologize.
making a mess.
That's
I'm the
okay.
problem.
No, that's it. We'll give them some. Not everything works out well. We can sometimes we take some minutes to go to the subject. I mean, you can ask Joe and Kai. They've been with me on the show multiple times. You know how it goes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like
At least,
the initial one hour or so we are talking about anything else. But
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
but,
because
but for me, like, I think the first one this year, we haven't seen or done a podcast like in 2023 or
what was
so
the
far,
last
right?
thing we did? Was it Judge Dredd?
Oh fuck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because
That's
unfortunately that didn't end it
long
well
time ago.
because you guys had interconnection and then Andy had to leave and I had to mix up some stuff.
Yeah, but I still remember it's like, I am the law.
Yeah, of course. And I'm glad also that Joe's psychic is behind him too, the skeleton. Is he
Yeah,
still
yeah,
wearing
he's
his
still there,
Hawaii
all right.
vacation shirt?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He never left.
Oh.
What a great investment. Oh yes.
Yeah.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
How much does this thing cost?
I spent too much because I was dumb and I just didn't buy one when there were many of them readily available. So I ended up having to spend maybe about $20 more than I normally should have just through Party City's website. And there he is.
Yeah. This is your version of Nathan Fillion, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Except
seeing
there's fewer stains.
Oh, that's kind of. No, I don't know
Andy,
how-
it's your fault for not being here.
yeah. I mean, I did told Mark we're going to roast him. Yeah. Do you know it'd be funny if
it's
he
quite
just messaged
interesting.
me right now? So do we begin right now? And he doesn't know we have already started. That'll be funny.
I'm looking through Amazon right now, and I'm seeing a skeleton of like 90 centimeters for 50 euros, and some life size. Then you're going up until like 200 to 350 euros. So yeah.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. If you're going to have a horror podcast, you may as well have some good set dressing that you can use all year long. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So for those who don't know me, this is actually a special episode I'm creating, and most of the time I record a podcast called Redemption of the Rotten. What just happened?
We're getting
Nothing.
somebody's audio bleeding through.
Oh,
Let me see. I think it's Kai. Now it's not. Oh, it's his. So apologies, guys. That was like again. Not everything is perfect, but we were working on it. Okay then. So what was I talking? Oh yes. So I was doing some housekeeping. So like I said, I'm MrYazMan300. You listening now on. If you're listening at time on my podcast, if you see it's part of Redemption of North, this is just a special episode because I sometimes do them. Like I just started, I think, doing the right time because last time Joe and I did the Oscars. This time we're doing now for the DC announcement that James Gunn and Peter Safran did, and most of the time my podcast is mostly us looking into bad movies and I remember Joe had a great time reviewing Highlander and almost getting drunk reviewing it.
Nah, not so much drunk, but needed something to numb the pain of, Highlander 2. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I will admit, I'm glad my favorite one is still the Chipmunks episode because I was expecting, Mark to hate it. And he comes like, it's all right. Is the audio fixed, guy?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Sometimes I basically closed every program running in the background, so I hopefully I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. As long as we don't talk Star Trek, or the internet will get involved, and then he crashed. Because that's what happened last time.
Yeah.
You're a Star Trek fan, Drew?
Star Trek, not the hugest fan. Like I'm aware of what's going on there. I casually watch Discovery. I'm not like frothing at the mouth, but the Star Trek I do watch is Lower Decks because that is a beautiful animated adventure of pointlessness. Yes. And it's just for someone who like my dad really watched Star Trek with us as kids. And then when Voyager came out, he lost his mind. We actually got pulled out of school early that day so that we could go to the grocery store to get everything he wanted to watch the premiere. So like I've been in the Star Trek universe, but watching Lower Decks is probably the only current Star Trek I watch.
Yeah. It's basically right now the animation stuff is basically what has been I wasn't really like looking forward to it, but I'm so blown away from the quality and what it actually meant and what it says. Like not only Lower Decks but Prodigy as well. It's I think right now one of my favorite properties within the franchise right now. Which I didn't really like expect from the beginning because it was like marketed as like show for kids and young adults, but I wasn't really like going into it with that much of high expectation. But afterwards, I would be thinking like it's basically like the Clone Wars of Star Trek. So
it's CG, right? Prodigy.
Yeah, it's CG. Yeah.
And strange. Is it Strange Words? Did I think the one I heard people
Strange
talk
New
positively out of the live action, right?
Yeah, Strange New Worlds is a brilliant show. It's basically going back into like the episodic framework that usually Star Trek shows had, because most of the times the newer shows have this like long continuous story arc spread over a season or so. But Strange New Worlds has more like an emotional arc for some of the characters, not like a continuous like background story, political stuff like that, which running in the background. And it's like one episode is a fantasy adventure. One episode is a pure horror movie, basically within like 45 minutes. One show is like the usual like moral story that you would expect from Star Trek. One is an action show. Everything like changing from one episode to another, and it really reminds me of like back in the 90s when they had the heydays of the Next Generation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think we are not talking about Star Trek at this one.
That's okay. Like I said, we can talk about it before we talked about this. I mean, part of it also because I want also the YouTube algorithm, because I want to get, in case I might end up becoming a partner, they might demonetize me for the beginning of the episode. If there's any cursing. I mean,
just because of the Star Trek content.
Yeah. That's okay. And at least Joe doesn't look sleepy. Are you sleepy? You look tired, Joe.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, what was I? Yeah, at least the entrance is working well when you talked about Star Trek. And, before we begin, Since you mentioned Star Trek, did you hear about the rumor they're saying that they might bring back JJ to do the first Star Trek film?
Yeah, right now there are several like rumors going around because ever since I think it was late 2019 or 2020-ish when there was this merger from CBS and Paramount.
Yeah.
Because at that time you had the movie franchise being with Paramount and CBS had the TV rights. So they had like to distinguish both things to some degree. And right now everything is under one umbrella, and the TV side is basically done by Alex Kurtzman.
Mm-hmm.
And they've tried to do some movie efforts, let's just say it like that. And ever since they basically the TV side is like really striving right now because you have like 5 shows being in production at the same time. So whenever there's something happening in the background, then it's probably going around with Alex Kurtzman as well. I would be expecting that they could be doing a Star Trek 4 within the Kelvin timeline. But right now the efforts are, I don't know. It's something that's really, really, really strange. That's happening somehow in the background. And on the other hand, you have the TV shows that's really like going forward.
Yeah.
On the other hand, like right now, Picard season 3 is coming out.
Mm-hmm. That's the final season, like, right?
What?
Season 3 is the final season, right?
Yeah, it's the final season of Picard, but they are saying most of the time like it's not really like the end for the next generation characters to some degree. Let's just see like that if the season ends, when the season ends, what's going on there? Because right now they're talking about like, well, we still have the capabilities of doing another next generation movie. If they don't really make a 4th movie within the Kelvin timeline, we could still do a next generation movie afterwards. So
with the same cast or a younger cast like they did with the new Star Trek film?
Let's just say it like that. It really depends on what the end situation of the Picard season 3 is going to look like. And afterwards, everything is basically all bets are off. And then, I mean, right now, basically, they really had like Jonathan Frakes came in and said, well, if they don't find a director for this movie, I'm free to go. I've done 2 Star Trek movies already, so why not we? Which is a very interesting way to go. But yeah.
I've only seen season 1 of Star Trek Disco. That's Discovery, the short name Disco, right? And my favorite episode is the one that he directed in season 1.
Yeah. He really knows his way of directing a Star Trek show. Yeah. Because he basically grew up, so to say, on let's chase it like that as a director on a Star Trek show. And then branched off into, he directed Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and then afterwards, 20 years later, he got also the gigs on all the other shows like Discovery, right now even Stranger Worlds, and Picard as well. So he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And also he did 2 movies.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Are they still making that Michelle Yeoh spin-off? Or did he cancel it?
No. Actually, the funny thing was, once she got nominated for an Oscar, or wait, not nominated for an Oscar, when she received the Golden Globe.
Yes.
At the same day, Star Trek basically put some message out on some official channel, like, we are still doing the Section 31 show, and we're still trying to attach Michelle Yeoh with that series.
Especially because now her paycheck now is going to be big if she wins the Oscar.
Oh yeah.
Before that was already high. Now it's incredibly high.
Is part of the reason they didn't film it because she was doing that Witcher prequel miniseries?
I don't know. I'm not really sure what's happening there on the back end, but they wrote her off in Disco season 3, and because they wanted to do some like Section 31 stuff, and at that point, like I have no idea at what point within the Star Trek timeline she's going to appear again. So all bets are off at that point. It could be like. Again, in the TOS era, it could even be in the Next Generation era. Anywhere, I don't know. Anytime.
Well, it's always fun to see Philippa Giorgio choose sceneries. So,
yeah.
And Michelle Yeoh, she's good in anything, even if the movie's bad.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Also, what other actor I'm thinking of? Yeah, Lance Reddick. He's also another guy.
Oh yeah. Have you seen The Legend of Vox Machina?
He's in it, right? One of the actors.
Yes.
Because I know he's in Castlevania. He plays the ship captain in season, I think.
Yeah,
3.
he's basically playing. There's the Kuroma Conclave, which consists of 4 big dragons, and he's speaking the main boss there. So he's going to be like probably also for the second for the next season as well.
Yeah, and he's also Hellboy in that upcoming video game. And also, they just announced Zeus in Percy Jackson TV show on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
He does has a deep voice that fits the gods.
Yeah, and I'm also looking forward whether his role in Horizon, the next Horizon DLC.
Oh yeah,
that's the PS5 inclusive. In case somebody is listening who owns the game on the PS4, that's only on the PS5. All right. So I think that's it now for talking about Star Trek and what was it, Lance Reddick. I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking about Lance Reddick and Star Trek, but we should move on because I know Joe looks a bit tired, right?
I mean, right now we could adopt this the Kai's Star Trek section of this podcast.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna time mark. It's like if you want to skip the Star Trek part. No, you know what?
That's a good idea.
I'm not putting. Let them listen to the whole podcast. They need to get educated. All right. Now let's see. Now oh yeah. So, like I mentioned, this podcast, this episode is basically my main case. We'll be talking about the announcement that. When did they do the announcement?
Via Twitter on
Tuesday,
like 5 days ago.
It's on Tuesday, the end of the month. He waited until the last day of the month to announce it. And apparently, for what I understand, this actually was they already did it with the press. They had the press meeting. They already recorded everything, and they spoke with them. But he told them, "Hey, can you please put this embargo until this day, exactly until on the 31st?" And thankfully, nobody leaked it. That's a positive thing because if it got leaked, I think WWE would have blacklisted them and not invited them to any press events. All right. So,
but what was your overall idea of the entire presentation of this 6-minute video that they had?
You know what? We're gonna begin this. I can have each one of you guys speak. So I'm gonna have Drew talk first since he's our DC expert. Drew, do you want to talk about what you thought overall of the presentation?
There was a lot that I enjoyed. Overall, I'm positive on it. However, the negative things that I have to say about it are just it's not that I'm trying to pick apart or poke holes in what they're doing. It's more that I don't understand who asked for some of this. So when we look at the Creature Commandos, personally, I haven't followed or heard about them in a while. So number one, I look at it as someone who, when I go to the comic store and I pick up my comics every week, I'm not picking those ones up. So I might just be the minority in that one. But a lot of the other people I talk to at the store are it's more of a niche thing. So it could be one of those sleeper hits where it's a new IP, it's characters that we're not super familiar with. And it's going to be fun because it's only 7 episodes. Which is nice and sweet, and you're able to get in and out with those characters, and then I guess, lay the groundwork if you're going to expand that series. When they talked more, like I'll just run through everything just to get everyone started. The Waller spinoff I'm curious about because I always like seeing like how she got to that position and her whole like basically I'm the shadow government of the DC mercenaries here, and how she uses Suicide Squad and how we can get more of those characters, because there are, out of the like 10 or so main Suicide Squad characters that you have, like Harley Quinn and all them, there's the ones you don't hear about, or the ones that are in the like they'll be exploded or whatever. But Young Justice did a really good bit where they go to Belle Reve for I think 2 or 3 episodes, and you run into a lot of those characters. So there's a way for them to explore those characters and explore those plot lines. My heart hurts for Superman Legacy because we know Henry isn't going to be Superman. I think that was a double-edged sword where we don't have enough information of what happened there. He was called off of The Witcher because he had issues on set with them not sticking to the books. He was very vocal about what they had done and what they had changed, and I think that may have caused a rift over there, so he was planning on exiting anyways. But the fact that DC said, oh, we hear you're having trouble on The Witcher, come back to California, we want to talk about Superman, and the talk we get is a giant middle finger. So I think hyping your fans up for more Henry Cavill and maybe a redemption after the Snyder Cut would have been really nice. And I had hopes for Superman being, even if we transitioned into, because they keep talking about, is it the Michael B. Jordan Superman movie? We keep hearing rumors about too.
They say it's the Black Superman movie, but I don't know if it's Michael B. Jordan.
What was it like? The J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams producing
thing.
it, and I forgot the writer's name. What's his name? I think I have it right here. Where is it? Tanishi Coates. Is that how you pronounce his name? Dan.
Yeah, Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yeah, he wrote Black Panther for Marvel.
So like,
and Captain America books back in the day. Yeah.
Okay.
So like it has legs. It can be something amazing, but for us to just kind of be slapped in the mouth by that, I'm holding back my hope for Superman Legacy. Lanterns actually got me really excited because the way he explained it as like sci-fi Twin Peaks intrigued me. So
yeah, and also True Detective, you also mentioned as an inspiration also.
Yeah, so if we're going to do Green Lanterns, which no one ever really touched on, and I'm surprised even CW Flash didn't, when we had someone play Hal Jordan who wore a Hal Jordan jacket who had a Green Lantern ring in season 2 or something in the Flash, and then just never touch that. Like, I've been waiting for Green Lantern stuff since.
Was a Diggle that he might be the Jon Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he's what's his name instead? Protector, Defender.
Because I think I remember it was one of those crossover. I think was it the John Wesley Shipp Flash comes in. He looks at him. He's like, "Hey, where's your ring?" Because he teased it. I think he's from another dimension.
Yeah.
He's a Green Lantern, and he teased it. I think in the finale of Arrow, right? That he gets a ring.
I honestly haven't watched Arrow since they were on an island.
That's basically all the episodes.
Another one that I was curious about, because I've been picking up DC more since they rebooted, because they did New 52 and then they did Rebirth, and then they had this little amalgamation go on where Wildstorm, all of Jim Lee's old stuff, is now part of the DCU.
Yes.
So we have the Authority, who are essentially everyone with a Batman mindset with superpowers, where they're going to make the world safe, not try. They are going to
so
solve
basically their
problems.
worst version of the boys, right?
Well, it's more like the Boys Light, I want to say. So
because I know I know one thing, because I remember hearing about the Authority, because 2 of the characters who are supposed to be their Batman and their Superman, they're actually lovers in the comic, right?
Yeah, there's like it was one of the first comics to have openly gay couples
that's
and
right.
actually doing stuff to represent people, which was very nice. Like I appreciate any chance that comics have a chance to connect with people and make it more about, again, their audience rather than deadlines and marketing. But the Authority is really great because you have characters in there who, there's a guy who's very similar to Batman, except he uses guns, and he's actually tried to assassinate Batman in the current continuity. And Batman sneaks up on him, and he wears this red mask over his face and says something. And Batman's like, "You thought you could get the drop on me?" He's like, "Oh no, I planned this. I knew you were going to come to me. I knew you were going to sneak up on me. Like, I have this whole place wired to blow." And Batman just, again, does a Batman level thing and tells them, "No, like, I knew you had bombs here. That's why I have this." And it's like just a pissing contest between the two of who's more prepared.
Dude, do you remember? Have you read the comic? They say that Batman fell from the moon and then he used his suit to cover his mouth, something like this, to not get burned
He fell from where?
from the moon to Earth.
That feels like that's a Hulk story, not a Batman story.
Oh yeah, there's a real thing. If you Google it right now, you'll find you're like, yeah, that's a real thing.
Oh, jeez. I'll Google that in a second. I'll get through the list.
Here, go ahead.
Paradise Lost. I'm sorry. Themyscira is boring to me. I enjoy Wonder Woman and her battles with the gods and how her family's kind of got this bloodline that they have destiny for, but outside of them, I'm just not interested in Themyscira. The Brave and the Bold, however, got me really excited because the fact that we're going to get Damian as an actual character rather than just being this sassy kid in the comic books is going to be awesome.
You might be
Whether
the
or
first
not
person
they
to
use-
talk positively about Damien from everyone's reaction about this news.
I'm excited for it because,
Yeah.
like, as much as I love Dick, Jason Todd, and who's the third one?
Tim Drake.
Tim Drake. Yeah, that's why I know he loves Tim Drake. But those are staples in being Robins. But with the introduction of Damian, he flies off the handle within the first week of being Robin. He's taking people out by the knees. He's shattering bones. They come up on, I believe, someone who's trafficking children, and Damian like shatters his vertebrae, and Bruce is like, "We don't do that." He's like, "Well, I'm making sure he never does it again."
Doesn't he decapitate
so-
someone in one of the issues?
I think he cuts like their fingers off, and then like almost like Batman stops him numerous times, and like in public settings where they're in the streets, Commissioner Gordon's watching, things like that, right? So it's going to be this cool headbutt thing I like. It'll be a nice conflict. Robert
Training
Pattinson
Day?
getting a
You mean you
Sorry,
want
go
to be
ahead.
like Training Day, like Denzel and Ethan Hawke?
Oh yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. Batman sequel with Pattinson. I'm 100% in for that. I know it did really well.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. I like that they're doing this Elseworlds thing where certain series are going to be contained within themselves. Certain series are going to join up with other series, and then we're going to have like the main DCEU universe, which is nice. So I think they took pages out of, well, you can't blame them, but Marvel doing the multiverse, but they're looking at it more like we're going to focus on one universe and have these other goofy ones off to the side that won't intersect, because if you're a DC fan and you've been watching DC content for the last 20 years, I'm sorry, like everything is disjointed and messed up. I see a couple people nodding with me. Like their animated stuff is.
No, I was thinking more like a different thing, but this could be a side conversation that we could have afterwards. Because I was thinking more like right now in Marvel theory, you're going directly into Secret Wars, and you're basically having like just focusing on one universe right now. But you eventually also have to introduce like stories from other worlds as well. And those would have to be introduced in other movies and stuff like that. And Secret Wars is only like a few years away.
Yeah.
But if you're right now setting up all those Elseworlds right now in the DC universe and thinking about that there is a relatively similar event, it's called Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, Crisis. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one
Yeah.
I think of.
And that if you would be developing it like as a 10-year like lineup that you could like make a Crisis of Infinite Earths movie or event in 10 years when everything is basically, when the plan is basically finished. I think this could be like a very interesting like thought, but I wanted to have this discussion later on. But
Go for it. Well, yeah, keep that in mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because Walter
moving
Hamada,
away
for
from
what I've read, he actually originally, I think, one of his plans is to lead all the movies into a Crisis into Infinite Earth film.
well, that looks. I believe that looks like where they're going, but again, we
It was
know
very
we know
confusing.
DC.
You don't
Yeah,
know
and
what's
we know
happening.
how DC handles those kind of things because the Justice League movie exists.
Yeah.
But
no,
next,
but at that point, you could bring back a
Yeah.
Henry Cavill, basically as an older version. You could go into like
What about the Red Sun Superman, Henry Cavill?
no, I would think more like a Kingdom Come more Superman, just as they
yeah,
did
he's
for the
lost.
TV.
He's kind of
the
lost
TV.
everything. Yeah, he's kind of
Yeah.
he's experienced and knowledgeable enough that he knows everything that needs to be done, but he doesn't. Yeah. There's some gold there, and that kind of segues me into the next one I'm really excited for because I'm probably
Gold.
one of the other only third subscriber in the world that has Booster Gold in their pull list every week. But Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, and especially it being Ted Cord Blue Beetle rather than Jamie or Jaime, mainly because when I first started reading these guys in like 2010, it was just guy from the future. So Booster, if you guys don't know, Booster Gold is a washed out quarterback from the future. He idolizes superheroes and idolizes making money. So what's he do? He breaks into one of the museums, steals a League ring? Not Justice League, the other one. Legion of Superheroes ring. A flight ring so he can fly. He gets some cybernetic enhancements on a suit where he can like punch harder and shoot lasers. That's it. He can't really. He's not on the level of anyone in the JLA. And then he stumbles across an AI, and he's going to get arrested. So he time travels back to the golden age of superheroes, which in the comics is the late 90s, early 2000s. And Booster Gold essentially shows up and he's like, I'm from the future. I know all of you. And like, just like secret identities, everyone in the JLA. And they eventually put him on a
Sounds
smaller
like
team.
something on James Gunn's alley.
Well, they put him on a smaller team with Blue Beetle and a couple other minor characters. And I believe Martian Manhunter becomes like his supervisor to just make sure he doesn't screw things up. But that's pretty much all they do. There's a bank heist, they catch the wrong criminals, or they arrest like the bank teller for possession. Whatever it ends up being, they just constantly end up screwing up. But Ted Cord, we got bits of him in the CW shows, is this super genius who, instead of getting a super suit and cybernetics or going full Iron Man, he just really likes gadgets. And he makes them very specifically for things. So he makes like a frisbee that shoots bola whips so it can trip people, or a smoke bomb that tastes like paprika. Like he just does these fun gadgets that they get into a whole bunch of goofy trouble with. But 9 times out of 10, like they're stopping, let's say, a crisis level event where a monster could destroy Metropolis. And they make it worse to a point where the Justice League has to be called in. So it's the Justice League is like, we need to use these guys because if they fall into the hands of like supervillains, they'll cause so much damage. And then there's just great story with Ted and like Ted's legacy because stuff happens to Ted. But Booster eventually becomes this medium level hero. Like, and I don't want to use the term that he's the Deadpool of the DCU, but he's on that level where he's not famous, he's infamous. And when he shows up on the scene, people are like, all right, when's the rest of the Justice League coming? Oh, and he's like, no, it's me, like Blue Beetle and Red Laser, like a third character you haven't heard of in 30 years. They're like, okay, yeah, but you can call Superman, right? It's like, well, no, Superman's busy, like, doing this off plan. Okay, can you call Batman? And people just keep harassing him, calling him not a real superhero. He's like, I can do, like, I can fly, I can do this. They're like, yeah, but underneath it all, aren't you just a guy with a ring? And he, like, loses his crap and just... and then last two things we have here are Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I didn't read too much up on it, but there's Supergirl stuff coming. Just real quick. Okay, so she's more of a hardcore Supergirl. She's watched people die. Okay, that could be interesting.
She's actually on a different planet, like not on Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, now I remember it. Yeah, she's kind of like the...
This is a Tom King, I think, a miniseries.
Yeah, she's like a hard-ass Supergirl. And then last but not least, something I didn't expect to be excited for, but Swamp Thing.
Yes.
So, like, Swamp Thing horror could be really interesting. And I think if they do it well and don't set our expectations too high for it, it can be one of those, like, very similar to the Batman. It can be a sleeper hit where it has decent marketing, it has decent story, it has decent people behind it. But once it gets into our hands and the fans who love Swamp Thing or the people who watched the 90s TV show of Swamp Thing get to see it, I think that'll be another new IP that actually becomes one of its own.
When you said the 90s show, Joe got excited.
Just laughing. I remember bits and pieces of it. It's yeah, that was
unique, shall we say?
Yeah, and
yes,
also we're glad
yes.
that the end is it. We talked about how old we are.
Oh, that's why I use the my facade.
Mm-hmm.
People can't really see how old I am.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to continue?
So fucking old.
Well, that's actually all that I have. So, like, Swamp Thing's probably the last one I have to talk about. So, if anyone has specifics that they want to go into, I'd like.
I'll go see Joe. How about you? Do you want to say something about what they announced?
Well, yeah, I'll run down the list here as well, but I'll try to, not go on and on. But Creature Commandos, I just kind of see this as like James Gunn doing Guardians of the Galaxy over again for DC.
Yeah, or like
that's a good way, to put it.
Peacemaker.
Yeah,
stuff like.
Yeah.
I'm totally unfamiliar with the property.
One of the characters is Weasel. That was in Suicide Squad.
Probably after episode, if they're doing 7 episodes, I think in episode 6 someone dies and we are all bawling our eyes out just because
it's incredibly likely. Yeah. Yep. I totally get that. Waller, I think, has a lot of high potential just because they're going to have Peacemaker's little squad along for the ride in that. I don't know if it leans a little bit too heavy into comedy. I don't know how I feel about that, but I just kind of want to see Waller be a badass, because we haven't really gotten to see that side of her so much in her Viola Davis's portrayal of the character, and she's like somebody to be feared.
We saw it in the beginning
DC,
of Suicide Squad. I mean, she, spoiler, when she killed, what's his name, Michael Rooker. You saw how evil she was.
But it was played for laughs. So, I'd like to see the more hardcore version of Amanda Waller. And maybe we'll get that. I don't know. But Superman Legacy, absolutely get, being miffed by Henry Cavill's departure. That said, I'm very curious to see what a James Gunn penned, if not directed, Superman movie ends up looking like. That's going to be wild. However this plays out, it's going to be really wild. Lanterns. Say what you want about the CW shows, but Greg Berlanti was able to put together a lot and do a lot with it, for good or ill. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. We haven't really gotten any good Green Lantern stuff. Yeah.
Is he still connected to something?
That project got canceled that Greg Berlanti was producing got canceled. They're doing this one instead.
No, I mean, is Greg Berlanti still like attached to any of the DC properties?
So far, the only DC project...
Lantern show.
No, he's not involved. The only DC project he's involved is Curtain of Superman and Lois, and that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's basically like the outgoing stuff still.
Yeah, because they announced, I think, the Titans and Doom Patrols are going to end, if not mistaken.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, regardless, I would like to see some good Green Lantern stuff instead of him just being kind of a joke. But we'll see. The Authority. I love anytime you want to get, into the weeds with like Batman being basically a fascist or anything like that, and having just a ton of Batmans that are gonna do their Batman thing. That could be interesting. The whole Paradise Lost thing, Drew, I'm with you. It better be like, I know they're kind of trying to push it as, it's going to be similar to Game of Thrones with all the political intrigue. Is it though? I don't know.
The interesting stuff that I'm having here at this point, when they're explicitly stating that it is a prequel to the events of the Wonder Woman films, and if they are saying like the Flash movie is going to be like the universe reset point at that point,
that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that right now it's basically a mixed stuff. Also with Waller in particular, you do have like characters and events and stuff like that from the old timeline from the DCEU when it was still up and going, and how this is going to be like affecting eventually like Gal Gadot, for example, Gal Gadot as like a member of this universe per se, because right now it's pretty quiet regarding her stance within this new universe. You don't really see anything else in that direction. So it's going to be very interesting to see whether, what's going to be like the second chapter, whether you have like the return of those characters as well, or some.
Yeah. We'll see. But then moving on to Brave and the Bold. Very excited about this. If you're going to reboot your Batman, let's do it like Spider-Man Homecoming, where we don't have to have the origin. We don't have to see Batman's parents gunned down in an alley one more time. People understand who Batman is.
Yeah.
Let's do something that, some people are a little bit less familiar with Damian Wayne. I think, like Drew, like you said, them butting heads with their styles is going to be kind of a cool bit for this. This is going to be that's right. This is a feature film, not a show. And they talked about how this and their Superman movie would be out supposedly within the same year.
That's the Robert Pattinson Batman, not the Brave and the Bold.
Really?
Yes.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would be more interesting to have Brave and the Bold and the Superman movie within the same year.
Because they're focusing
but that said, totally.
Go ahead, talk.
I was going to say, totally hyped for the sequel to the Batman. The fact that it's going to focus still more on the crime, like organized crime side of Gotham as opposed to supervillains. I love that. Give me more of that. I'm all about that. Enjoy the hell out of the Batman. I don't know. We had nearly 3 hours, right, with the Batman. There's the possibility it's about the same, but yeah, totally down. I know October of 2025 is a long time from now.
I mean, we have
it's
the
like
Penguin
2.5 years.
with Colin Farrell.
But yeah, the Colin Farrell Penguin show, that's got some potential. I would watch that. Booster Gold, yeah, I think that could be a lot of fun. For all the reasons that Drew brought up. Let's see this dipshit try to be a superhero. The Supergirl
Glenn
thing.
Powell or Nathan Fillion Booster Gold.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I think
the Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I want to see this fucked up hardcore Supergirl. Give me that. All about that. And then obviously Swamp Thing leaning into it with just a horror film element. And if they can get James Mangold on board, by all means, let him do it. Let him do a hard R superhero horror show thing. I'm down.
Yeah. That was one of the things I love. That I think James Gunn said that they are going to make R-rated projects. This is not also going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's been proven they can make money.
I mean, of course. I mean, Harley Quinn, the Birds of Prey movie, I think underperformed Suicide Squad because that was, unfortunately, it's because of the HBO Max release and there was a COVID. That's why it didn't do well at the box. But it was a positive. The best film. All right.
Yeah, but I don't even necessarily mean DC. I just mean look at Mangold's last Wolverine movie, Logan.
Yeah. Yep. Also, R-rated horror movies.
Christ.
R-rated horror movies are now making money a lot compared to other projects.
Yeah, but in those things you would also have like they're relatively cheap compared to those things. I think at that point you would also have to invest lots of money in terms of CGI.
I think Mangold might do something more because Logan wasn't $100 million, but it was a modest film, right?
Yeah,
I mean he can do it. It also depends on marketing, how they market the film, because that's very important also.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is that all, Joe?
Yeah. I would say overall, my take on the announcement, I feel hopeful.
Yeah.
You know, some of these lesser known properties or smaller like TV miniseries that they want to do. Yeah, I'm less excited about those, but no, I think there's a lot of good potential here. What I didn't like so much with this announcement was just how much they wanted to lean into how wonderful Shazam was. And, you know, the original Shazam, it's just kind of an okay superhero film. It's fun,
compared to the other
but
DC films, it was the best. It was what we were getting at DC films.
Yes, I don't know.
I had fun watching it.
Like I said, it's fun. I just
you didn't like the
do we really need to
meeting
continue.
Scene?
And then you know they're still going to push Aquaman 2 because the first one made a ton of money. But I love how little it was brought up. Like, yeah, we don't need to talk about Aquaman. We're just going to pump this movie out because we know it'll make some money and because we've made commitments. And at the end of the day, we're going to be done with it. And then there was all of his hype over The Flash. And I'm morbidly curious. I would like to see what this film is. Ezra Miller may be a piece of shit, but I would still like to see what this is. And, you know, not just from a nostalgic standpoint with bringing back Michael Keaton as Batman, but hey, let's fuck up this DC universe. Let's, let's Flashpoint it up by all means. Yeah. Yeah. That said, when they jump into talking about the Batman sequel and the whole Elseworlds thing, I don't like how much they feel that they need to brand things as core DCU and then Elseworlds. I think people that are fans of comic book shit are generally smart enough to be able to figure out what is in universe and what is adjacent to it. Just
but
and they're still going to blow it all up with like you were talking about with doing some kind of version of Crisis on Infinite Earths. And they have so much potential with that to bring all sorts of things back again if they want to, or other variants of it. Just, I think that they're trying a little too hard with branding.
I don't think so at that point, because I'm thinking what I really liked about this presentation was it was really clear, focused, and transparent regarding its messaging, and saying like, okay, we are right now in a situation, we have been producing several content right now, and this is basically the outgoing stuff, and we are going to eventually create our new own universe, and we are going to have the Flash movie as its fixed point, and we're going to have this one as basically our starting point for our new universe that we're creating. So basically, at that point, right now it's on the one hand for the basic fans saying like, okay, we are going to have a definite end point of the DCEU movies. So this is going to be the final end point of that. Then we are going to have a new slate of movies coming up. This is basically our DCU, as we are branding it right now. And we are also having like all these other kinds of universes, which are all always in their own pocket dimensions and stuff like that. So it's for me, it's basically when you're going into a movie and you're not really like into those kinds of comic books per se, just like your father and your kid wants to go to see the newest Batman movie and stuff like that. Although it's pretty harsh if you're going to see the Batman Part 2, probably comparing or Joker Part 2 with your small little kid or so, which I don't really.
Right, we still have that coming, don't we?
If you're going to with Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn.
Right.
Yes. Right, that one. But if you're going to the movies and stuff like that, and you're then asking yourself the question, okay, am I going to see Superman in this? Am I going to see Harley Quinn in this? And who is going to be Harley Quinn and stuff like that? If you are like the average moviegoer, at that point, it's basically saying like, no, this is this universe and stuff like that. It's basically like a basic explainer saying like, well, you're having like a DC movie, but you have to think about, okay, I'm in this universe, I'm in this universe, I'm in this universe.
But does the average moviegoer actually concern themselves that much over those questions?
The thing is basically if you're not really like thinking about those things, and then you're asking myself, is this going to connect to this other movie that I saw? Or when is Henry Cavill coming in? And where is Ben Affleck and stuff like that? I think some of them would be asking those kinds of questions.
I guess. I just feel like it's more hardcore fans that are a lot more concerned about what is canon, what is not, what is in universe, what is not.
Definitely. But if you're basically having a blank slate and you're having only like seen this movie or this movie or this movie, then you're probably going to be puzzled when you're seeing lots of references to this, and then you're thinking like, I have seen this one before, but he said something different and stuff like that. And then I think at that point it's a good explanation to say, well, don't consider the thing that you've seen before, because this is a different universe, a different timeline and stuff like that. Because we are basically having our own thing here. And I think branding it as Elseworlds, is a like good, like I mean, basically when you're looking at the publishing side, you also have like this Vertigo brand where some comics were
I think
being
it's
published.
DC
And
Black Label, if I'm not mistaken, instead of
Black
Vertigo.
Labels, for example, yeah. I think it's a very wise thing to go into something like that there as well. And the right now on the business part, it's going to be quite interesting to see, because when you consider what happened at Marvel in the last couple of years, you had like Kevin Feige at one point being the head of Marvel Studios, and then after some internal shifting and stuff like that, where some executives were being like downgraded and everything shifted around, and eventually Kevin Feige became not only the head of Marvel Studios but also like proper entire Marvel. To say it's not only like the movie branch is under him, it's also like the TV branch is under him, and also comics is under him. So you have everything under one like corporate brand. Another question is right now, James Gunn and Peter Safran are basically the head honchos of the DC studios right now for the film franchise. And I'm questioning myself whether you would have something similar in the future, that you're going more like having everything under one umbrella, not only like for the movies but also like for the TV stuff, which you're actually having right now, because you're basically following the whole Berlanti universe under one umbrella. So this is basically gone. So you have, most of the times it's basically TV and movies are under one umbrella, but you're also having like the comics branch, where this is also like shifting towards that as well.
Well, then there was also talk of the video games and having them, connected as well, and the same voice actors as their live action components.
Exactly, and that was also kind of like one of the things that kind of bothered me during this talk, when you were talking about, well, you have some kind of actors being you can hear everywhere and stuff like that, and sometimes the actors that appear in the movie are not really like the speakers of the characters, the voiceover actors in the comics, and this is going to be changing. And I was thinking, like, is he basically hitting on like the VO actors per se? Because I like them to some degree, and they're doing incredible work. And it also worked out for Marvel as well, because if you're going for What If and stuff like that, you don't really have
had to be recasted. I mean, Iron Man, because of course they can't pay Robert Downey Jr. the salary that, because he paid him too much. They can't have him come back as Iron Man. I think that's it.
But this didn't really bother me at all. Enjoying the show, per
I think
se.
Maybe I think they will get most of the actors to come and do voiceover, and maybe because when there's not that big of a role, the movie they might have a different actor voicing him. Because
but for me, for example, if you're going for I'm not really like native English speaker per se, but if you're having a Joker, for example, I still like my one and done appearance of Mark Hamill there, speaking a Joker again. I don't necessarily need him to be being played by Joaquin Phoenix to some degree, or someone else.
Barry Keoghan. That's who played him in Matt Reeves' Batman, the end of the film.
I was thinking more like my friend Morbius being called.
Oh, hell no. He's the last person that they're gonna bring him to.
Jared Leto.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're having this kind of question,
He's
then
got a cult to run. Leave him alone.
Yeah. He has a movie tomorrow.
A 30-second to Mars reunion to make.
it's going to
Yeah,
happen
what else
for
does
some
he
content.
has? Doesn't he has then?
But if,
Maybe he.
I mean, if you're going for a spoken Batman, who are you going to take? Are you going to take Michael Keaton there? Are you taking Ben Affleck there? Christian Bale would be nice. But
Michael
I don't
Keaton
know.
did video games. He was in the first. No, he was in the second Black Ops game.
What, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. But convincing all the actors to go there, I think it's going to be an effort. I think, depending on who they're going to be casting, of course.
And I also think it's a little bit of a shame because you've got, a whole section of, the entertainment industry, voice actors that are, people that make their living as voice actors who will mostly be excluded from these properties. I mean, I understand the studio is going to want who they're going to want. If they can get, the big names from the films, from TV shows or whatever, to be a voice actor in an animated property or a video game, that's what they're going to want. But it's just kind of too bad. I don't, like it was already said, a while ago here, I don't feel that it's a detriment to have a voice actor who's not the original actor portraying one of these characters in an animated thing or a video game. As long as it's quality, man.
Yeah, not because they're bringing actors a lot, because they're doing that motion capture for the characters instead of voice work in video games. That's why they're bringing actors.
Okay. In that respect,
Because I know Rocksteady, they only do voice work. The actors.
It really depends on what kind of game you're doing. If you're doing like a brawler, I really don't need to have like Batman being voiced by Ben Affleck or so. Christian Bale. Imagine like Super Mario Bros. Smash type brawler and have Christian Bale like doing the oof sounds for Batman there. That quite funny.
They did do it with multiverses because they had in the late Kevin Conner doing his voice.
Yeah.
I think that's all because Joe. I think that's what you want to say, Kai, about the announcement. Anything you want to say about them?
Yeah, that was basically my parts. I mean, most of the things I really look forward to, especially the Flash movie. I'm a sucker for all those kinds of like multiverse, different kinds of universes stuff. I always like the idea of how much history or the universe can change if you like pick one event in time and change it so that something else comes out. I always like those kinds of thoughts. Otherwise, I mean, regarding Shazam, I still haven't seen any of the trailers right now. It's similar to the Black Adam movie. I also didn't see any trailers there as well. I even haven't watched it. So
it's on HBO Max now.
I mean, it really changed the how was it called?
The
power dynamic,
and it did, but not the way he wanted.
Yeah. In the other direction for me, but I'm really looking forward to the Flash movie. And regarding the first chapter, I mean, you're seeing some references. It's quite interesting to see that chapter 1 is already being branded as Gods and Monsters. And if you're looking at the lineup there, I basically see one monster per se, which is called Swamp Thing.
Ezra Miller?
Yeah, I think that.
No, Ezra Miller is not like this 10 properties.
Apparently, the rumor Dark Flash might be in the Flash movie.
I don't know, but
Do
where
you
are
know
the
what's the
gods?
theory? Is
Where
the
are
monster is going to be? Do you know what's the theory?
what?
The theory for what the monster and gods of monsters are going to be is that what's it? Brightest nights.
Blackest Night or Brightest Day?
No. Black is the one where they come from. They get resurrected dead, like the Green Lantern story.
Blackest Night.
Yes.
Yeah, Black Lanterns.
Do you want to explain to them what's this, Drew?
So basically, in the mid 2010s, you find out every color in the spectrum is pretty much a ring. Mm-hmm. So the quick thing is green is willpower, yellow is fear, blue is hope, red is anger, violet I think is compassion, love. Love.
That's Star Sapphire, right?
Yeah, Star Sapphire, and then orange is greed.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about them is they all have like their main lantern who kind of is the showcase for all of them. So you have all these lanterns running around doing stuff. But DC really, really, really wanted to bring back a bunch of dead characters. And they had to tie up some loose ends with an event that was happening. So what ends up happening is we find out that Barry Allen. Barry Allen had been the Flash leading up into the 80s, but then he did the Crisis of the Flash and he'd been gone. So this is when they actually brought him back. So he's constantly running from death. And we meet him in the Speed Force, whatever happens. And so Death realizes it can never catch him. But if Death gave its powers to someone, maybe they could. So the Black Lantern ring gets created. And the guy who, I forget who it is, becomes the Black Lantern. And anyone and everyone who has had someone tragically die, either in front of them, because of them, or was related to them, he just resurrects essentially the DCU and just throws zombies at people. And like Batman has to come face to face with his parents.
Jesus.
And there's this weird thing where although the Black Lanterns, what it does is resurrects the body, but not the mind or the soul. So Wally West has to fight a decaying Flash because he thinks it's Barry Allen, but it's actually not. And there's this whole thing. It's a really good series that I'm doing no justice towards. But Blackest Night leads into Brightest Day, which we find out that every ring has to have an opposite. So the Guardians at Oa find out that the White Lantern has to exist in order for a Black Lantern to exist. So they give the White Lantern, which is life, to the Green Lantern who's experienced the most tragic deaths, and that becomes Kyle Rayner. So he becomes the White Lantern for a bit. And we have a redemption arc for Sinestro, a whole bunch of other stuff where you just get introduced to this very complex storyline. But the best thing to come out of it was the introduction of the Red Lanterns, because they are pure hate. No matter what, they have so much hate in their system that they like the Red Lantern ring finds you and says, hey, you have great hate. You're going to spread it. And the main guy is Atrocitus. He loses his whole planet due to genocide. There's a couple other characters in there, but my favorite character to come from it is this cat named Dexstar. And he has a very, very tragic thing happen to his owner, whatever. And he has a ton of hate in him. So he essentially becomes this blue floating cat because the Red Lantern rings on his tail. It gives him the power to float. But they all barf like this magma napalm. And there's a super villain, and I can't remember who it is like, oh, you're so cute, aren't you? And like goes to pet him, and he just like, brr, like barfs on them, and they're like, oh, what is this? And they start like burning alive. And he goes, it's my gift for you, and literally just flies away. Like a cat would scratch you and walk away. He's just like, bruh, gone. And the whole series is now ballooned into like, there's a Red Lantern series right now. Atrocitus has his own series. Like it's really good.
I love that every time you were talking, Joe was laughing every time you were describing something.
Oh. If I can find the images on the internet, which I'm pretty sure I can, He's got a really tragic story, and it's one of those few times where reading a comic, I was like, oh my gosh, this is heart wrenching. Whereas I can watch Batman's parents be killed every day. So,
Do you buy that this is what they're
They
going to
deserved
do as the setup
Sorry?
the bad guys in this chapter?
sorry, one more time.
I'm saying, do you buy that this is what the direction James Gunn might go to for this chapter?
I hope it's not that way right away. Just similar to how Darkest Night came. For the longest time, DC did a really good job in the comics putting down breadcrumbs. So leading into Darkest Night, weird things were happening. Kid Flash was having like dreams about Barry Allen, or Batman was noticing like weird subspace communications. So the way the comics have always done it is they're going to tease you throughout the year leading up into their big events, and Marvel does this too. Typically every summer a big event happens, whether that's Spider-Verse or X-Men versus the Avengers, or Batman recently did it with the Joker War. You get introduced to a character or a plot line, and you're like, okay, this might be significant. I might keep picking up the comic to learn more. And then that storyline kind of peters out and finishes, and you're like, okay. And then there's a conjoining book, like the way Batman did it this year is like you have Batman, you have Detective Comics, you have the Robin book, Nightwing, and then everyone else, the whole Bat family has their books. But this character who appeared started showing up in other ones. And you're like, how is this guy showing up in these other books? Well, this guy is a super fan of Batman. Like, he essentially is like, I'm going to do everything Batman does, but I'm going to full-blown vigilante it. I'm just going to, like, kneecap people. Like, if a guy is robbing someone and his hand gets broken because I hit him with a bat, that happens. So he's just doling out justice with no repercussions. And then he actually turns into a very important character during the Joker War and the whole thing. But this guy started with like a 2-cell cameo. And unlike a movie, you can't really lay those breadcrumbs, because anytime we have anyone in a Marvel movie, whether it's Coulson or it's Lang or it's Wong, like, they all have very defined roles. And I find that Marvel, like, and I know we're talking DC, Marvel does a very good job saying this is who this is and this is what they do. I just hope DC doesn't do that. Like, I don't need tent poles. I don't need signposting. I don't need railroading. I don't need to be told that when I see this character walking by whose name badge says Ted Cord, I don't need the Leonardo DiCaprio meme of him whistling and pointing at the TV. I don't need that. Yeah. I'm fine with X-Men did it a long time ago, where they're going through a computer and you see all the like actual X-Men character names, right? Then they never touch on it. That's fine. Like, give me those breadcrumbs. Let me imagine this. Let me build my own hype. Let me be the one to determine what I'm excited for. And it goes back to a comment I made a while back, weeks ago even. I don't need a laugh track to tell me something's funny. Let me make that decision for myself. And I think if DC can pull this off well, they're going to be able to come back out of the pit that they've dug themselves in over the last century and be competitive in the movie field and TV, because Flash and Arrow came out, and the first 3 seasons of both of those shows, I was 1,000% in. I, at one point, was looking up archery lessons. I was thinking about, like, learning...
Taking up running?
Yeah, well, running to the McDonald's. Holy crap. But that was the thing. Like, I was interested in what the Flash proposed, like, with quantum physics and stuff. So, like, I got interested in these things because they gave me the breadcrumbs in a very easy to digest format.
Yeah. You know, because from watching the CW Fest, I started reading, Jeff Johns, Wally Westron, and I remember reading it, it's like, wow, I can see the influence of the comic book on the show.
And that's another great time to look at DC Comics. Like, when Arrow and Flash were coming out, they were dealing with a lot of interesting storylines. And even to, again, toot their own horn, Marvel has done some very interesting stuff where it connected on a level you didn't think it did. So there's like Civil War 2, or even in there's a Batman series where sorry, 1 second. There's a Batman series where he technically gets killed. He gets hit with the Omega Ray from Darkseid. And
Oh yes, was it Final Crisis?
yeah, so but to the readers at that time, because DC didn't show their hand, they canceled Batman books. And people are like, wait, what's happening? Like, Batman's dead? And DC went, I guess you'll have to find out. And then when it did come back, we have like Dick Grayson as Batman. We have Damian coming in and going, you're not Batman. I should be the next Batman. And then there's the whole you're too short joke. Jason Todd comes out of nowhere to say, like, no, it should be me. Like, I'm the one who was trained to do what Batman was doing. Like, I can be the Batman. So there's this whole fight for the cowl, which is again a really good series. But then what they start doing is showing what happened to Bruce Wayne. So the Omega Ray, and everyone's been afraid of it in the DCU for years, doesn't kill you. It just sends you to a different point in time. It's completely random. And because Batman had some sort of focusing or some sort of device to capture the beam, he gets sent back to the caveman era. And essentially there's this whole series where Batman canonically introduces the fact that Batman has existed for a millennia. That there was a cave Batman, there was a cowboy Batman, there was a frontier justice Batman, all leading up to him finding like the proper point in time to come back to. And he even goes to a point that they find out that the caveman Batman lived in the cave that's now under Wayne Manor, that the cowboy Batman set his base up at the top of where Wayne Manor was so he could see the city. Like, there's this whole mountain of like leading us there. And again, they didn't show their hand to put this whole story out there. They weren't saying, oh, we're going to have a time travel Batman. Whereas you look at Marvel right now and they're like, oh, we're going to have Spider-Verse 2. We're going to have Civil War 3. We're going to have Planet Hulk 4. Like, again, don't do the show. Don't tell.
Yeah.
Just let us absorb it for what it is.
Also, my last thing about the announcement, James Gunn said that that's not the full Dune Chapter 1. Said that he only showed, I think, half of it.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see how much they already showed right now, and how much stuff they're having in their back end as well. Because right now, I don't know how much is going to be spreading out. I mean, it's looking like you have 2025 and 2026 maybe. How long is Chapter 1 going to be? Whether it's like
he said
2026.
2 movies, 2 TV show per year. I think something like this.
Yeah, but when is like going to be the natural end of like Chapter 1, and what's going to be like the second chapter? When it's going to start? That's going to be very interesting. I mean, probably we're going to hear it like 2025 or 2026 or so. But it's going to be very interesting. Looking forward, at least.
Because if Mangold
again,
ends up directing,
very hopeful.
If Mangold might up directing Swamp Thing, we might have to wait, because his next film is the Bob Dylan biopic with Timothée Chalamet. Then he might end up doing Swamp Thing.
Yeah, but looking at this calendar right now, this is going to be like a 2026, 2027 property. So I think by that time you could arrange your schedules accordingly. Hopefully.
When did you say Superman's coming out? Okay, 2025.
Yeah,
Because I think we'll be getting
Superman.
Creature Commander first, and then Amanda Waller, then Superman Legacy. So that's what's coming next year. Then because Superman Legacy, that's 2025, and then we also got the Batman, that's also 2025. So,
I mean, if you're seeing Superman Legacy and then Batman, those are the only properties right now having a fixed date, or sort of like launch window. If you're having this like that, you're seeing like, okay, Authority is probably going to be late 25 then. Then you have Batman Brave and the Bold, which is going to be a 26 movie probably. And then you have Supergirl also, probably in the summer. And then Swamp Thing, yeah, probably also summer or
maybe
late.
the end for Halloween be by the end of the month, on October.
Yeah, I mean Swamp Thing as a October movie, that would be like great, like Halloween movie.
Yeah.
That would be like good branding.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
All right. Is that all I want to?
Well, I think we all sound relatively hopeful about all this stuff. That's encouraging.
Let's just say it like that. Even though most of those things are more like properties where the normal franchise goer would be saying like, where are the three, like the Trinity? Where are they and stuff like that? And I'm basically right now having a blank slate to most of those properties. And looking at in the background, not in the background, but looking back to like the Suicide Squad, where we also had a blank slate for most of the characters over there. And look what happens at the end of the movie. We're having so much connections to characters that they have just introduced in this movie.
Yeah.
And even if
you didn't like them in the previous film, you end up liking them more in the sequel.
Yeah, right. And if they're going to pull this one off for most of the characters in those new properties, I'm all in.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Especially when you have James Gunn, because the reason we got James Gunn, not just one person for running DC, because you got James Gunn. He's gonna be like a beat doctor at Pixar. Like he's the head, but he's also gonna be involved creatively, and he'll be directing as. Now they only said he's writing the Superman movie, but I think James is going to direct the Superman movie because he still haven't announced it. Because one of the reasons because he's now he's busy now. He has Guardians of the Galaxy coming out. So because if they announce he's doing Superman, then people were gonna harass him if time on interviews. They'll ask him more about Superman instead of Guardians. So I think that's why they said they're gonna wait after Guardians come out. They'll say, "Oh yeah. James Gunn is directing Superman."
Yeah, right now you're basically trying to clean off the last things with Marvel.
Yeah.
And then when was it? Beginning of May when it's coming out, Guardians 3.
Let me check. I have it
once this one's out, then he's all in for DC and
May 5.
Yeah. And then it's going to be all hands on deck for that one.
Now James Gunn said that he will be open to get actors from Guardians of the Galaxy to appear in the DC films. Who will Vin Diesel play? Could he be our Swamp Thing?
Honestly, I would not hate that.
I was actually thinking about Booster Gold, but it's going to be probably too old for that.
Yeah, I think because the people want to play Booster Gold is Glenn Powell, who played Hangman and what was it, Top Gun Maverick. He even said one time in an interview, he's like, people were asking me, you should play etc. I said, the one character that they named up that I'm actually interested in is Booster Gold. Let's see what else we got. Booster Gold also. Because also now what people want is Nathan Fillion, but I think Nathan is too old for the character.
Nathan Fillion or what?
For Booster Gold, but I also see him as Hal Jordan if they're going.
Yeah, Andy is not going to. That would be the question for Andy then. What character is going to be like Nathan Fillion playing in this new?
I think.
No. Wait. We already had Nathan Fillion in the Suicide Squad.
In the Suicide Squad, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So.
But it was blink and you miss it, so.
Yeah.
I mean, he did say the character is still alive because he doesn't die in the movie.
Really?
You saw him, but he came out and said on Twitter, it's like, oh yeah, he's alive.
What?
James Gunn said not to
How?
because let's see what else was oh yes Dave Bautista, who do you think will play? Because we know he said he's not gonna play Bane because James Gunn told him we're looking for a younger actor for Bane.
Yeah, I mean, Bane is probably not someone who's going to appear at The Brave and the Bold. I think.
Maybe he will end up. I don't know if he's gonna play Swamp Thing because of his huge. What other huge character he can play? Drew, do you see him playing one of the characters in the Authority with Dave Bautista?
I don't know really, because like even Bautista came out saying he didn't want to be known for those kind of roles, the more into the like Guardians role of Drax. So I think if he's gonna go anywhere, and he's even like dropped smoke at The Rock, he says he wants bigger, more impactful roles.
Because he said one of the things he didn't like about Drax said because his character's name is Drax the Destroyer, but they made him more of a comedy guy than a tragic figure in the Guardians. That's one thing he didn't like about what they did with his character.
Oh yeah, if we look at the Guardians movie through a magnifying glass, the Guardians movies are essentially the adventures of Peter Quill. They are not Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Endgame did more of that to explain like Gamora and her backstory to us. As much as we get Rocket and Groot and doing their own things, like we still don't have a backstory on Rocket and the guy who genetically engineered Rocket and his entire lab of not only just rocket raccoons, but there's like laser bear and there's just animals with things. So it's like, again, Marvel does great things. They don't do amazing things.
Yeah. I think because he talked about he wants to play Bane, but I think James Gunn told him but I wonder if he's gonna play maybe the Cat of the Authority or something like this.
Yeah, he could. There's a lot of big grumpy guys he could play. There's a lot of muscular, angry guys he can play. But
yeah, I was actually thinking more like if you're going for a detective show or like supernatural, like Twin Peaks, I think he would be fitting more into Lanterns or The Authority, to some degree.
If we did him in Lanterns, he could be Kilowog.
I was gonna say Kilowog
because Kilowog does have a tragic backstory. Kilowog does have.
Who did you say the Red Lantern you mentioned?
Atrocitus. He could be Atrocitus, but Atrocitus is just anger for anger's sake. Like unless they dive deep into Atrocitus' backstory about essentially witnessing the genocide of his planet.
Because that's what he wanted for Drax. If James Gunn delivered to him this, what is
that could Atrocitus.
Maybe that's what's gonna give Batista the chance to play that character.
Yeah, he's got. There's not a handful. You probably have like a bucket full of big, angry DC villains. Even if you wanted to go back to some of the older villains like Solomon Grundy.
Yeah.
He could do a Solomon Grundy. I don't see Grundy fitting into the DCU right now unless he's going to be in Swamp Thing or he's going to be in...
But I don't see Batista wanting to play that type of character.
But again, Batista says he wants to have like impactful characters. So for him to get someone who's impactful, like I can Google search people, but...
Yeah. I mean, he wants to play Marcus.
Giving us a new John Constantine in Swamp Thing.
Oh, that's not we forgot because they didn't mention it. The Keanu Constantine.
Yeah, Keanu Constantine's coming back.
There was also something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was also, I don't know I think the project is cancelled. There was also an attempt to bring Zatanna into a movie. But that I think is cancelled now. I mean, maybe we can see because we know Constantine is connected with Swamp Thing. Maybe they might connect Constantine with Swamp Thing, or maybe we might see Zatanna. So, if you want, guys, I've heard some stuff about. So, the creature commanders, the characters are going to be in the show are Rick Flag Sr., that's Rick Flag's dad, and we got Nina Mazursky, Dr. Phosphorus, Eric Frankenstein, and the Bride of Frankenstein. GI Robot, and Weasel. These are the characters that are going to be in Creature Commando.
Yeah, that's like 2 people I've heard of out of that whole list. Like, there's not a lot.
Yeah, okay, and the Waller TV show for HBO Max is being written by Crystal Henry. I think there was a writer on Watchmen, and Jeremy Carver. That's the creator of Doom Patrol. So James Gunn, I think, is only producing the show. It's not showrunning it. Then we also talked about Lana, The Authority, Paradise Lost, The Brave and the Bold, The Batman Swamp Thing. So did you guys see the writer's room that he announced for the DC films?
Yeah, I think some of them are like coming directly from the comic books.
Yes. Drew Goddard, who created Daredevil, he wrote The Martian. He's part of the writing crew. Christina Hodson, who wrote Batgirl, Flash, and Bumblebee. Jeremy Slater, who did, I think, Umbrella Academy and Moon Knight. We got mentioned Christina Henry, who wrote Watchmen, and now we also got Tom King, also part of the writing group.
Yeah.
There'll also be some
Pretty stacked.
Yeah. I wonder what other people he's gonna bring with him for the team. And some comments he said were like James Gunn, like he mentioned, that talked about the Flash movie. He said like he called it one of the greatest superhero movies ever made, and he was also asked because we know there was a Ben Affleck and
it's a high bar.
Because that's what the word of the month about the movie. Everything's been screen saying is the best movie, but I heard, I think, because they've been reshooting the film to Hindi because to restart the universe, I think reshot some stuff in the film, and they got asked about the other actors because we know Henry's not coming back, as so is Ben Affleck. So they asked about Gal and what's his name? Momoa, I think it's Ezra, and also what's the fourth one? Because they said 4 people. What's it? Oh yes, Zachary Levi. They asked if they're coming back, and they said that the door is open. But mostly, I don't think he's gonna bring them back. From the story I'm hearing is that Momoa might come back. He might be Lobo. That's I think what I'm thinking. So what do you guys think?
Yeah.
He certainly got the look.
Yeah. I would have said Batista, but I think Batista doesn't want to do a comedy because he already did it with Drax. He wants something else.
Which is such a shame because he's such a good comedic actor.
Who, Batista?
But I get wanting to,
Yeah. I think if he
like
wants
shockingly
to go
good
drama,
at comedy. Yeah.
Yeah. But if he wants to go more into drama, I mean, to some degree, or
I get that.
In Knives Out too. Glass Onion.
Yeah. Because he mentioned like he's trying to versatile because he said that he's getting older. He can't do action movies. He wants to versatile. That's one reason why.
So let's just say it like that. He wants to transform the hierarchy of former WWE thing turning into actors.
He's, I think, out of all the wrestlers, he's, I think, the best one. He's better than The Rock and John Cena. And also, what was it? Also, of course, they asked him about Ezra Miller. I think they basically is like they released a PR statement. It's like what they also did when Ben Affleck was. They're saying he might not come back for Batman, and they was like, no, he's still working. They basically said, look, we only care about Ezra's recovery. Like they are going to treatment, etc. After that, we'll see what we do. Basically, I think after the Flash come out, they're gonna stop tying with Ezra Miller. They are not going to work with them on any other future project. Yeah, and also he talked about Superman. James Gunn said, we didn't fire Henry. Henry was never cast. For me, it's about who do I want to cast as Superman, and who do the filmmakers we have want to cast. And for me, for this story, it isn't Henry. I like Henry. I think he's a great guy. I think he's getting dicked around a lot of people, including a former regime of this company. But this Superman is not for Henry for a number of reasons. I mean, part of it I think it kind of makes sense because I remember when after the whole Black Adam thing, I think the cameo, a report came out. They're saying that he's not signed out yet. He's come out saying, I'm Superman, but they said they'll be told him to go out and say it, but he didn't sign out anything about him officially being Superman. But basically told him to go out and say you are back as Superman. Then this is what happened. And also he mentioned about what happened. I think he's doing well because he has the Warhammer franchise now.
Yeah, I mean that were like 48 hours of like pure emotions. Like first losing maybe like the Witcher franchise, then suddenly he's also off of the Superman, and then suddenly he's going into the Warhammer franchise. That was like really, really crazy stuff happening over there. But yeah, at that point, I'm hoping that the Warhammer franchise is going to be interesting.
Yeah,
I
mean, he already has all the time in the world he can do it. Because I think now he's shooting a Guy Ritchie from World War II. I think Guy Ritchie from what's his name? Alan Richardson from Reacher. He's in the film. Isaac Gonzalez is also in it. Also, what else did he talk about? So, and he also addressed like the Zachary Levi. You guys saw his tweets. What's happening? And they asked him, "What are you going to do with Zachary?" He said, "I work with a lot of people who I also disagree with, so I'm not gonna change my plan just because of his comments." And he also, he mentioned, it's funny enough, you're talking about Elseworld. He named out Teen Titans Go as an Elseworld. Were you surprised to see this, Drew?
I don't know. I'm a lot of it is still up in the air, and although I would love to go down rabbit holes of speculating, I just want to pump the brakes and maybe just wait for more news. Like, I've overhyped myself for stuff before. I've set expectations really high, Black Adam, and just been disappointed by DC. So until I can see a project that they've finished, they've released, and that they that gets good critical reception, I'm just gonna wait.
The best
and on that note, I do have to head out. So thanks for having me, guys. I have to head out.
All right.
Okay. Have a
Take
nice
care.
day.
Okay. Take care, Drew.
Yeah, but speaking of this, I mean, the last year has been a very tumultuous year for Warner Bros. Per se because of like the merger with Discovery, and you had so many transitions happening over there. Yeah, Batgirl, for example. And all the other properties that were like shafted and killed basically just mid-production and stuff like that, which is very, very difficult to hear. And I mean, it's a similar situation as we had in 2019 when Disney bought Fox. You also had this transition time from 2019 up until I think 2021, 2022 were like the last remnants of like the last productions that they were starting under the old Fox leadership. Until they are being like transferred under the new Disney umbrella. And I think this is a similar situation over here as well. You had in this first year, ever since they did the merger, lots of hard decisions that they had to do. I wasn't really like fond of what they did, especially like the Batgirl movie. I really wanted to see this one. I mean, I could understand that they were saying, I mean, especially you had Michael Keaton in there. And I was always under the impression that whatever happens in the Flash movie, this Batgirl movie has to come out after the Flash movie. And that the Batgirl movie is having to deal with like the remnants and the fallout happening, whatever happens in the Flash movie. And this new thing is happening over there, which is probably right now no longer happening. I mean, right now they're probably going to be shifting into another kind of universe that they're wanting to create. So at that point, I could understand that they were saying like this movie is not really like releasable or stuff like that, because they are is basically a remnant of like going into another direction that they are never going to go anyway right now, which is still
I guess.
sad and really bad, because I really want to see that. And
I'm more cynical, Kai. I think it really was the accountants saying we can make so much more money by shelving this thing and never letting it see the light of day.
That was basically like the PR thing that you're getting out of it. You're basically saying like, oh, we can save some money over there if you're just shafting this movie, and well, yeah, that's what we're going going to do.
I mean, that's what is happening right
really,
now
really
with
cynical.
Paramount, because they heard the news. They're merging Showtime and Paramount. They're removing some stuff from the Paramount Plus server and even from the Showtime.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're basically trying to merge this with Showtime as well, and which I don't know. We just got Paramount Plus over here, so I don't
Countries
know.
is different
We're
because
still having like,
because we have the Fox movies on Disney Plus International, but in the US it's on HBO Max.
yeah, it's. I mean, licensing stuff is really strange right now. I mean, I was reading some news today where they were saying like Disney eventually is going to be licensing stuff to Warner, for example, in the future, for any of those kinds of streaming platforms. But I don't know what they're going to do. So that's basically, I mean, at that point it's just like business stuff. Nevertheless, I mean, we are still in this transition phase, coming back to this 3-year thing, and right now you're seeing like, okay, we are going to have this blank slate, and let's give them a little bit of time and see what they're going to produce. I mean, at that point, I hope that at least the DC branch is going to have some air and at least some calm in the near future, because the last year was pretty tumultuous.
Yeah.
Without having produced anything of like relevance. Not just saying like, I mean, of course, Peacemaker was a pretty good show. I still have to finish it though. I only have like watched.
Get
like
on that.
Yeah, I know. But overall, anything else that they produce, I don't really bother. And it's probably also going to be like the 4 movies that they're going to produce this year, except the Flash movie, of course. But I mean, looking into the future, if this part of the like Warner Bros. Lineup franchise is going to be a little bit more calmer in the future, then I'm going to be there in the direction of having more confidence there.
Yeah.
At that point, speaking like that, it's going to be interesting with the other franchises that Warner Bros. Has. Looking at you, Harry Potter franchise, Wizarding World, what they're going to be producing, because right now, this on the movie side, it's basically dormant.
I mean, they're not doing any Fantastic Beast films. I think he won't.
The Fantastic Beast movie right now is basically, I don't know, on
canceled.
extended hiatus.
I mean, also, that's not said that they can't, I think. Because the last one underperformed, bombed at the box office. Secret of Dumbledore.
Yeah, but I would be saying like they would have to really like shuffle anything around. I wouldn't say it's completely cancelled. They didn't really say that at all. They just said like we don't have any of the sequels right now in production. So I think at that point, once they have finished like the DC part, I think they're going more into the Wizarding World stuff and thinking like, okay, what are we going to have here as well? So, I mean, you could go into more things back into the Harry Potter eras, or basically right now.
I think that's what they're thinking of doing. They want to bring back the Harry Potter.
If you go, I mean, back in the day when they were releasing the original lineup for the Fantastic Beasts franchises. I mean, you had a pretty big lineup up until 2024 in their original lineup of 5 movies that they wanted to produce.
All right.
And then at that point, you would be having like saying maybe 2026 would be the first time when they were going for like the end of their release batch. And this would be a good time to have like a film version of Cursed Child, for example, if you're going back, taking back the original actors as well.
Do you see them
So
maybe
this would
doing
be
like a spin-off, like a set in Hogwarts, like as TV shows for HBO Max?
And this was actually mostly discussed last year when they were talking about potential like other shows or things like that they could produce. And I was having a talk earlier this day with some friends of mine who are doing Harry Potter podcasts, and they were under the impression that mainly, I mean, you would have also like to talk with the licensee, which is called J.K. Rowling at that point, in order to have like to say what would be a good expansion of the franchise at that point. If you're going for an HBO show, HBO Max show, I mean, what kind of thing are you going to do? Are you going to be more like a kids-friendly show on HBO Max, which would be very interesting, or would we going more into a adult like movie in the Harry Potter franchise? Because I mean, basically,
I think they might
most
make
of
it the same tone as the movies.
Yeah, the question then would be, which movie are we talking about? Are we talking more like the kids friendlies, the 1 and 2 and 3, or more like the darker movies, which are 6, 7, and 7.2? I mean, you could go either direction at that point, but I mean,
Yeah.
I could be thinking more like a noir detective styles with auras, trying to find out dark secrets and murder and stuff like that, as an R-rated show, or like
I don't
mature
think they
show
might do an
on
R-rated.
HBO
They
Max.
might do it a PG-13.
Yeah, I mean, probably going for PG-13, but thinking of like what you have with properties on HBO Max, be quite interesting show as well. If you would
They
drive
had
into
his
those
dark
kinds of.
materials, but that was, I think, more of a PG-13 TV show than an R.
Yeah, it was. I just wrapped that up a few weeks ago. I enjoyed the hell out of that show. The tone was pretty dark throughout. But it definitely skewed more young adult than adult, for sure. For a show that's all about how organized religion is the downfall of humanity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. Great cast. Cool production value.
That's, I think, a BBC and HBO co-production.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was what's his butt who's coming back to Doctor Who, Russell Davies' production company, right? Bad Wolf. Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed his Dark Materials. I don't know if I really need more Harry Potter or anything in that world necessarily. I enjoyed
What other franchise did you
time I had with it, but as far as franchise or like TV shows on HBO Max, what's the word on the Benny Gesserit Sisterhood series? Is that dead, or are they still thinking about doing that?
I haven't heard anything about it. I
No.
think there's a chance that it might go to Amazon, because it's the type of thing that Amazon wants to make.
Huh.
I think they might.
I don't know. I mean, we still have Dune Part 2 coming out,
this year.
later this year? So,
Yeah, and also you mentioned Doom Part 2. Austin Butler, he's playing, what's his name? What's his name? Brian Harper's nephew.
The
Sting
Sting character from the David Lynch movie. Yeah.
He went from Elvis to Sting, and Do you see? That's one of the actors that people want to see play Superman, Superman Legacy.
Oh, it's November 3rd,
Yeah.
June 2.
Nice.
So I think they might go with
Looking
an unknown.
forward to that.
Do you see them casting a recognizable or an unknown actor like they did with
The fuck?
what?
The Lord of the
What?
Rings, the War of the Rohirrim. Right, there was some. Yeah. There was a Lord of the Rings movie coming out next year.
It is an anime by the guy who did Ghost in the Shell
Yeah,
standalone
yeah.
complex.
Yeah. With Miranda Otto as Elwyn.
Okay, then.
All right. I think we should.
Interesting.
End,
All right. Well, I wasn't aware of that. So.
I think we should end the podcast here. Thanks, guys, for joining me, and also thanks to Drew for joining me. So, Joe, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube's YouTube at Murders with Mertens. Also, if you're an audio listener, podcast services around the world. But yeah, if you like horror movies and people talking about horror movies, swing on by.
And also, people should come and see your sidekick behind you. How about you,
he's really not that interesting.
How about you, Ka? Where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter, mainly on @Avel_Krinet. On podcast sites, if you're speaking German, we have some podcasts there as well. Basically, I'm having a Star Trek podcast. Well, obviously, we were talking about Star Trek earlier today, so that's basically me talking more about it. It's called offene Rufrequenz, or open hailing frequencies. And we are also having a other Disney-based podcast called 2-1 Risiko, which is more like 2-1 Dangerous, if you would translate it to English.
Yeah, I'm also going to put Drew's what you can find him on the description below. And if you can, like I said, me is Yaz300 Twitter, and Yaz300 Pro, Yaz300 Pro, apologies. On Twitter and Instagram, Yaz300 Pro for everything about the podcast, and also on YouTube, you make sure you like and subscribe and leave us also a comment, and also go to the podcast service and leave us a review and a like. So thanks, guys, for watching the episode, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Take care.